MANOR LORDS is an absolutely fantastic game, and we all have really enjoyed the first patches and updates to the game. But I feel like it's time to speak about some potential updates for the future. And here in this video, I'm going to discuss my top 5 features I would love to see in the upcoming updates. It's not like for the long term, but it's really the next things I wish to see in this game to make it, for me personally, a better experience. And you can agree or disagree, but let me know in the comments what you think about my points. But without further ado, let's start with the first one. Food is an absolute center point of this game. In nearly all of my gameplays, I had a little bit of an issue with food at some point, depending on where I started. So if you're not starting in the most fertile land, you will, however, somehow get into some trouble if you're not perfectly fine on trading, first of all, before you unlock rye or anything else. And I would love to see some improvement in that sense, that we have more variety and more opportunities to get over the summer. Because at the moment, it's really like a hassle to go into the harvesting time and then have it. So my suggestion here would be to go in and have a bit more of variation with having more different options in vegetables, so you can choose different vegetables depending on what you want. So for example, having potatoes and cabbage and potatoes and carrots and stuff like that sorted themselves, so to have more of this, but also to maybe add some dairy farms, like we do already have oxen, so why don't we have like cows, for example. Piggy farms would be good for meat as well, and all these kind of things are here. They are in the game. We do have it, and we could have all this. And I would also love to see some more variation on berries in the forests, so just to enjoy that a little bit more. But anyways, that's the first point. More food variation, including more options. That would be sensational. And also pigs and so on could be a cool upgrade on some houses, for example. Upgrading from this apple orchard into like a pig area would be lovely. Next up is water sources. I mean, yeah, we do have underground water sources and streams to put down our wells, but what we don't really have are ponds and little lakes, for example, to make, for example, fishing a thing. But also, including fishing, there is also a potential of having some cool reeds around these water sources, and then having reed as an optional new kind of resource to build some roofs and thatch roofs and stuff like that. So that would be a cool item to maybe go for level 2 housing that you need thatch, for example, or for service areas and service buildings that would require reed as a wonderful resource. I think that could be a cool addition to the game and would also make the map a little bit more varied. Just imagine that you take the active map we have at the moment and you only have a couple of lakes and stuff like that randomly scattered around, almost like you have the different resources randomly scattered around. I think that would be a lovely little touch to improve the overall gameplay and just put in a bit more variety, you know? Number 3 is a big one and potentially my number 1 request at the moment. And this would be rivers. I would love to see a map with the rivers, or like with one river maybe. So you could take, like, I love the map that Slavic Magic gave us, Greg gave us as a first map. This is a handcrafted, wonderful map with a lot of variation and honestly a pretty damn good replayability, if I may say that. But there is obviously a lack of variation after a while. After putting over 60-70 hours into the game that I have done, it just starts to become obvious that a little bit of variation would be cool. But the big thing about rivers would also be it could add another layer of separation. So the game operates with these different areas of the map that you have to unlock, but you could also create like this type of natural border, because the natural border could be achieved by having a river cutting through a land, and certain resources are only across the river. So you first of all would need to build a bridge, and a bridge could obviously be a building that you can only achieve after unlocking certain things, adding a whole nother level for a later part of the game to connect maybe areas with another. I, for example, thought about the fact, how cool would it be if the river would be going alongside the different territories, so that for once you can only achieve a certain territory on the other side, or you basically can add this to your active one by having the river access and then put a bridge across it. I think that could be also a cool idea to also add some, things to another. I really feel like this is a very cool thing to do, and I would really love to see rivers in the game. One of the very few things I don't like about this game is the way stones are handled. I really don't like the idea of having stone as such a rare resource, because it pretty much hasn't been that way. Stone is almost like the equal resource to the woods. You also have a lot of stone available in the region that the game is set in. And so I feel like the gatekeeping of the resource stone is actually at the moment only tied to the fact how little stone you need, and to make these buildings that require stone a little bit more harder to build, I guess he basically put in the resource as a rare resource. But overall, it is not. And with having the rivers, obviously, as I said in the point number 3, there comes obviously the need for more stone to build bridges, for example. And having more need of stone would also enable us to have a bit of a more, accessible resource that is stone. And I honestly, for my liking, stone could be handled a little bit like the fertile land, or like the fertility indicator, so that the land itself is more rich in stone. And this is where you can put down different stone mines or quarries or whatnot. And this is basically something that then provides you with a certain amount of stone in that area. So the more rich it is, the more percentage of stone you can get out there. And you still could keep the deep mining option for very stone rich areas or territories. And then in these territories, obviously, you're only eligible to go for deeper mining and then have an infinite amount of stone, for example. What we don't have at the moment, we don't really have an infinite amount of stone, because we can't go into deep mining with those two. So that is a bit of a pity, and I really would love to see stone handling done differently, because this would also enable us to have a bit more options in building. At the moment, frankly, I think going to level 3 requires a lot of stone for the houses, but as stone is such a rare resource, it's not part of becoming level 3 buildings. But you could, like in the future gameplay, you could say level 3 requires a certain amount of stone, and if you do have stone as a bit more of an available or accessible resource, that could obviously tie into that, making A, level 3 a bit more realistic, but also B, a bit more dependent on resources, so you have a bit more of a one chain more, like one product chain more, or resource chain more added to that one. Bit of a, added value, so to say, if you will. But I would love to see that, because this could also give us the option for future updates, having stone walls and stone path, and just making sure that everything is a bit more prepared for the future, because you can clearly see that there's a vision behind this. But at the moment, I just really like how it's handled, so that would be a very important feature to me. But anyways, let's go to the last one. Back in my town center, we need to talk about wonderful things like cosmetic items. I'm just going to zoom in a little so we can have this centerpiece over here where people moving around, and in no time you will see some items added to this region. This obviously is just cosmetic, okay? Having some bins, benches, arches, ponds, flags, wells, whatever, would make this whole thing look a little bit more nice. And honestly, I can't wait to have these things, because for many people this may actually not be important. I do see it, but we do already have so many items scattered around that could be easily used as wonderful items to make some cosmetic additions to it. You could take all these wonderful things that are already designed in the game, but attached to prefab buildings, obviously, could be used. We could use the picnic tables from the tavern, for example. We can use all the different archways from the different level 3 houses. I could also see some benches somewhere. I'm not sure where exactly they would be, but some of these things could be just repurposed as ploppable items to make this all look better, and maybe even get some lanterns and at some point to make nighttime a bit more of a usable thing to have. You've maybe seen that I barely ever use day-night cycle because, well, nighttime, as beautiful as it looks, is really hard to play with because, you know, you have a very rare light source, so to say. There's not really that much light that you can have, and yeah, would be lovely to also have some stuff like that, but also getting some boulders and stuff as items would be lovely. Well, there you have it. These are my top 5 changes I would love to see, or features I would love to see in Manor Lords in the near future, I should say. So just as a little conclusion, I think if I need to put my money on something, I would definitely go for the rivers and update I was talking about, because I really like the idea of having more variation in here, also from a visual standpoint, but also obviously food as a second most important thing could be handled with a river too, because fishing could be integrated as an option for the whole year. So that is something I really would love to see, and also with the idea of a medieval time would also be very nice to see maybe a freezing river or like a frozen river in the winter times, but giving you a temporary access to the other side would be a very interesting attempt on it, I should say. But yeah, so there you have it. These are my top 5, and I really would love to hear what you guys want to have next. And again, this is by any means to take away from already how great the game is, and I know there is no real official future timeline. I know there are a couple of things that already have been discussed, whether in the Discord or so on. But yeah, I'd really love to see and hear from you guys what you would love to see in the future. But these are my 5 points, and well, let's see what you guys think about this. Talk to you in the next one. Have a good one, and goodbye.